What's up, engineers? In this video today, I am going to give you an example of how to create a base that would fit within the parameters of our project. I know some people have been asking, okay, where do I start with this? So I want to show you that creating the base is not something that's very difficult. You can take this design and edit it and change it to however you want yours to actually look like, but this should give you a good start. So this is what we're going to make. Let's go ahead and get started. Alright, just like what we do with many of our OnShape sketches, we're going to go ahead and start with a sketch on the top plane. And on the top plane, I'm going to start with the center point rectangle started at the origin. You'll see why it's important to start the center point rectangle at the origin later on, but the main reason is that it will be intersected by the planes right in the middle. And so if we can have those intersections, then we can actually mirror any features across this central plane. So it's really important, again, that you start your base at the center so that you don't have to do extra work later on. All right, let's go ahead and dimension these sides. So remember, to dimension a side, use the dimension tool. And from the constraints of our project, the maximum length of our catapult is 150 millimeters. And the maximum width of our catapult is 80 millimeters. No, sorry, 80 millimeters, 60 height. Okay, so now that we've got that initial base sketched out, let's go ahead and extrude it so that we can have something to build off of. So do we want a 25 millimeter base? Absolutely not. If we only hit 60 millimeters in height, if we did 25 millimeter base, we're going to be taking a lot of our height off. So let's go ahead and just make this 5. That'll make it thick enough to support any structures that we put on it, but at the same time won't be taking away too much of our height. Okay, so now we have our base. The next thing we're going to go ahead and build is this left support. Okay, so I'm only going to actually have to build one of these supports because then, like I said, because I started my base right at the origin, right at the center there, I'll be able to mirror this over the right plane to make this very easily. So I won't actually have to do the work twice. Alright, so if we want to make that initial feature on the left side, we're going to go ahead and start a sketch on the left face of this extrude. So if we click on this face, start a sketch, you'll see we're sketching on the face of extrude 1. Okay, now that does not mean that your whole sketch has to be on this face here. It just is going to be on this plane. So we can extend up, and that's what we're going to end up doing. So we'll start with the line here. We're going to go ahead and start from the bottom, and you'll see why here in a second. Go up to the top, and then we're going to go down to the bottom here. Okay. Now remember, the reason that I did all the way to the bottom is that the height, the maximum height, can only be 60 millimeters. So when I dimension this, I have to dimension this including that 5 millimeter base. So if we make the line go all the way to the bottom, now we know that this fits within our constraints. Okay, so we've got half of a triangle, but in this sketch or in this design, there's a full triangle. Maybe your design doesn't have a full triangle, maybe it's just a half a triangle, and that's totally fine. But in my case, I do have the second part, so I'm going to go ahead and just really quickly mirror this element over this line. So it says select a mirror line. My mirror line will be this one right in the center. And then the entities to be mirrored, it's just this line right here. And now you can see I have this perfect isosceles triangle. So we can confirm that. And now that we have this triangle, we don't actually need this middle line. So actually I'm going to go in and delete the middle line because we know that it's 60 millimeters from the base to the top. And that's all we need there. So cool, we have that triangle sketched. Now in order to bring it to life, we actually need to extrude it. So we'll go ahead and choose sketch 2. Actually, you know what? I didn't finish this triangle all the way through, and that's my bad. I need to finish this sketch all the way through. So you can see that this isn't actually closed on the bottom here, and then that wouldn't allow us to extrude that out. So let's go ahead and just finish that bottom line there. And now we can go ahead and extrude sketch 2. and we will do that. So we don't want it to go out. We actually want it to go in, because remember, this outside is already the maximum 80 millimeters. So we'll make this 5, but then we need to change the direction of it so that it's going in. And now you can see that we have this perfect triangle set up. We're ready to go. Okay, so before we mirror this over to the other side, we do want to actually include one more feature on here. And that one more feature that we're going to want to include is the hole where our axle is actually going to sit for the arm. And so that's going to be, right in the center here. It's going to be a 5 millimeter hole, and it'll be 1 millimeter from this base. So if we're creating that, we'll start with the sketch on the inside of this extrude that we just created. And actually, this will be a little bit easier. Just go from the right here. And so I know that my circle is going to be aligned with the origin, and like I said, it's going to be 5 millimeters in diameter. And it will be 1 millimeter from this bottom here, so we can allow the arm to actually rotate. So we'll dimension this to be 5, and then, we don't want it there. So let me move this up. We want the distance, so the dimension between the outside of the circle and this line to be 1 millimeter. And then we can go ahead and confirm that sketch. So before we actually finish this off, what we'll need to do is we'll need to extrude this, but we're actually going to remove it. And we don't want to remove it all the way through, because we actually want an end kind of cap on this. So unless you want to create your own caps like we did for the fidget spinners, my recommendation would be to just make this a 4 millimeter extrude, so you have 1 millimeter left of material as your cap. And then we can go ahead and confirm that. And then the last thing that I'm going to do, if you saw in this original design, there's this bar that goes across the top. And so I could wait until I mirrored it over, but then it would be hard to sketch this top circle here. So I'm going to go ahead and sketch that top circle before I do the mirroring, and then I'll be able to extrude this so that it's added. So again, we'll go into this sketch, and we're just going to be doing another circle that is right above the origin, but is up higher. So we'll do this, origin going up. And this one we want to be a little bit thicker. I think 7 millimeters would be a good diameter. So the way I'm shortcutting this, if you haven't noticed, so to dimension, all you have to do is press the key D, the letter D on the keyboard. It's a lot quicker than having to go up and actually click this every time. So 7 millimeters. Confirm that. And now we are ready to go. So I viewed that sketch. We're going to need that in just a minute. Okay, so the feature mirror tool is right up here. So we'll go ahead and click on the mirror. And then we have to choose the entity to mirror. So we want to choose this triangle that we made. And then we have to select mirror plane. And the plane that we're going to mirror this across is the right plane. So we'll select that. And voila, we now have second pillar support. So then the last thing we need to do is just make the stop bar going across. And so to do that, we'll go ahead and just extrude this circle. And how far are we going to extrude it? Well, if we extrude it 80 millimeters, that's going to end up extending out beyond, just happened here. Oops, I think I accidentally did extrude twice. If we did this 80 millimeters, it would extend out beyond our other support, and that's not what we want. So if you think about it, why is it doing that? Well, 80 millimeters is from this side to this side, and it doesn't include this 5 millimeters here. So because we're starting the extrude from the inside, we would need to make this 75 to fit right in there. And so now that we've got this all made, once I confirm this extrude, I would be good to go. So then the last thing that I would need to do, obviously, is create the arm that fits in there. So you want the radius of the arm to be slightly smaller than the radius, the 5 millimeter radius that you made on the base so they can actually rotate around. And then other than that, this would fit within the constraints as long as the arm is no longer than this 150. You take it off for transportation, that would be no problem at all. And there you have it. So good luck with this. Obviously, if you have any questions, call me in. I'll help your team out. We got to get these things done. So looking forward to seeing the final products.